The Renaissance, Art and Philosophy, brought to you by Madison, Lael, and Claire.
Starting with Machiavelli.
What is some brief biographical information about Machiavelli?
Machiavelli was an Italian humanist and philosopher. He was born in 1469 and he died in 1527. He is one of the founders of modern political thoughts, and he was an ambassador in Florence. He's considered very ruthless. He had a political power in Italy, which led him to become disgusted with political affairs, and he always dreamed of a united Italy, but he believed it couldn't be achieved by Christian methods.
Who influenced him?
Machiavelli was influenced by his political power in Italy and his experience of exile, of his experience during the Medici's family exile.
What were some of his contributions to the Renaissance?
He was a founder of modern political thinking, and he contributed the idea of Machiavellianism, which is using any means possible to get ahead, which is considered a crude political practice. He focused on worldly things instead of religious things, and he viewed virtues like mercy, humility, and piety as obstacles that interfered with politics, and he thought Christianity wouldn't survive in the Renaissance, and he also thought the papacy challenged the unity of Italy.
What were some of the effects he had on the Catholic Church?
He rejected some Christian values, which made Catholicism lower in society, and he thought Christianity would not survive throughout the Renaissance, and his focus on secular views contributed to the split between secular life and religious life, because his thoughts did not include religion and everyday life like it used to be.
Michelangelo.
Give me a brief biography of Michelangelo.
Michelangelo was born in 1475 in Caprice, Italy. He later lived in Florence with Lorenzo de' Medici after he brought him into his home. His father worked for the Florence government. Michelangelo remained unmarried most of his life, even though he was in love. He was taught by Domenico Giraldio, and he recommended him to Lorenzo.
Who were some of his influences and patrons?
One of his main influences was Domenico Ghirlandaio, and he taught him how to do frescoes, which later on helped him in the painting of the Sistine Chapel. He was also influenced by Bertoldo de Giovanni, a famous sculptor, which exposed him to many poets, humanists, and scholars. The church also gave him permission to study human corpse, and that's how he knew how to depict a human form so well in the statue David. He was also supported by Pope Julius II, Clement XII, and Leo X.
What were some of his contributions to the Renaissance?
Michelangelo's paintings and sculptures showed power and strength, and they showed realism and psychological perspective. They also showed the beauty of the human body in a way that no one has ever seen before. It was so realistic, and he's considered to be one of the greatest artists of the Renaissance.
What effect did he have on the Catholic Church?
He painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling, which shows Adam and God touching fingers. And then he designed the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. He also sculpted the Pietà, a sculpture that showed Mary and dead Jesus lying in her hands. He also wrote poetry based on Neoplatonism, in which the soul can be reunited with God through the power of love.
Raphael.
Tell me about Raphael's life.
He was born on April 6, 1483 in Italy. His dad was also a painter, and he's the one who first taught him how to paint, and he had his funeral in St. Peter's in Rome.
Who are his main influences?
His first main influence was his dad, who taught him the basics of painting. Michelangelo was also an influence to him because he also taught him how to paint. Leonardo da Vinci was another influence, and his last influence was Perugino when he was his apprentice.
What are his main contributions to the Renaissance?
He mainly contributed his knowledge of using light, composition, and depth, that he used in his paintings, which created some of his greatest masterpieces.
Next, did his art have on the Catholic Church?
He brought some of his greatest paintings to the church. He painted the Madonna, which is the Blessed Virgin Mary. He also had some massive paintings in the Vatican apartments, and he was hired by Pope Julius II to paint murals in papal apartments, and those were considered some of his greatest works.